Peace of mind to me means to be happy not only in what you do for work, but also personal. And I think, especially nowadays where we have our computer with us or our phone all the time, we look at email, like we check our emails all the time. It's very important to put the phone away, be actually outside in the nature with your loved ones and breathe in and be peace of mind. Just enjoy being there in that moment.
Welcome to the Verdict Signal podcast, where we feature how top attorneys help people make informed choices, avoid common mistakes, and move forward with confidence. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Verdict Signal, and today we're expanding our conversations to the experts who protect what people build, their careers, families, and businesses. I have Nicola Casper-Hoesl, a German attorney and foreign legal consultant in Colorado, specializing in German inheritance and probate law. Born in Munich and educated in Germany and South Africa, Nicola brings an international perspective to complex cross-border legal matters. Her professional experience spans Berlin, Munich, London, and Colorado, and includes work with the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the German Embassy in Sri Lanka. Fluent in German, English, and Italian, Nicola helps clients navigate German legal procedures with clarity and confidence. So, Nicola, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's start at the very top, Nicola. How did you first get interested in the legal field?
So both my parents are lawyers, and I always wanted to become an attorney because that's basically all I knew from my home. And then when I turned 13 or 14, I was like, I don't want to become an attorney. Attorneys are dumb and stupid, like a teenager. And then I graduated from school. I went abroad. I did like a gap year, which is very common to do in Europe. And then hoping to find the solution, the answer as to what I wanted to become. And I returned after a year and I still didn't know what to do. And I was like, all right, I'll just go to law school. I mean, it has a lot of options for me afterwards. And yeah, that's how I ended up being an attorney.
Okay. And what led you specifically to the inheritance law, the estate planning side? Like, what brought you to that specific side of law?
So when I graduated from law school, which in Germany, it takes about like 6 to 8 years to be actually an attorney. I started working in several international law firms, and I did more the employment law or civil law cases. And I had nothing to do with inheritance or probate law. But my father is specialized in German inheritance and probate law. And he slowly told me about his cases because I was telling him about my cases. And I got really interested in his cases. And all of us are going to die. So we all need an estate plan. There's hopefully one of us is going to inherit as well. So it's all over the place, the question, and that's where I started getting very curious. But I also thought it's important to, especially if you're a young professional, to try to get as much practice and knowledge in all kinds of fields and then narrow it down. And also, I feel like inheritance and probate is such a small and niche topic that you do need a little bit more experience. It's also very complex and complicated, German probate law. So I'm glad I had like 6 years of civil law and employment law experience before I started really diving into the inheritance and probate matters.
Got it. Okay. And what do you think is one thing you wish more people understood about working with an attorney?
That we make their life easier.
Hmm.
And you don't have to be afraid or scared, but we are experts in that field and we're here to help and to assist. And I understand that people are afraid of the costs involved, but in the end, all the cases that I work on where someone passed without a last will and has assets in two or more countries, it's going to end up a lot more expensive for the heirs compared to whether the person who died would have talked to a professional, an attorney, and drafted up an estate plan that would have worked out in both countries or several countries. So in the end, yes, it does cost money, but it's going to be cheaper to sit down with an attorney today than having to go through probate in several countries.
Got it. Okay. And I want to talk about some of the most common situations that your clients come to you for. Now, you're a specialist in German law and I guess cross-border people who have assets in Germany, but maybe live in the US or along those lines.
Yes.
Is that kind of like the most common situations your clients come to you for?
Yeah, I think there's two very typical situations. The one is um, Germans who live in the United States, or Germans like me who got married to a United States citizen, and now they have assets in Germany as well as in the United States, and they just want to make sure to draft up an estate plan that works in both countries.
Mm.
Or if you still have minor kids, they want to make sure that the kids, if both parents pass away, will be the legal guardian, let's say, is in Germany because I want my brother to take care of my kids if both my husband and I die. How do I have to draft it up that it works in both countries? That Germany accepts that legal guardianship directive as well. So this is like the one sector that I work on a lot. And the other one is Americans, mostly Americans or sometimes Germans in the United States contact me because they have received a document from a German probate court informing them that they have inherited from Germany.
Hmm.
And typically it's, a relative, like my grandmother's cousin who passed away in Germany and she didn't have any children. And then I'm an heir. And they call me and they're like, well, I received this letter and I don't know if it's scam or not, and I don't know what to do to access my inheritance.
Got it. Okay. Now, I want to talk about some of the most common misconceptions people have when it comes to this specific type of law. Like, kind of the ones that you mentioned this to your clients and like, huh, I didn't know that that was a thing. Or it's like, oh, I thought it was this way. Now, I know that estate planning by itself is already pretty complex, but now when we're doing cross-border, cross-country, it makes it even more complex. But what
Yeah,
would you say
yeah.
is some of the most common misconceptions you hear from your clients when it comes to this estate planning, the inheritance law, especially across country borders?
Yeah. So inheritance law, the biggest one I'd say is that in Germany you can also inherit debt.
Mm.
And yeah, and you're liable for it. And even if it
Wow.
exceeds your personal assets, you are liable. So you want to make sure whether you want to accept or renounce the inheritance because it could end up, being
Mhm.
worse than before. So that's the one. And then when it comes to estate planning, well, that's actually also rather inheriting, is even though you as an heir do not live in Germany, German tax inheritance taxes apply and are being triggered. Sometimes even in a situation where the heir and the deceased live outside of Germany, but there is a house located in Germany, German inheritance taxes are being triggered. So bottom line, always make sure to also look at German taxes because Germans love their taxes. The German government loves to collect money. So that's something that a lot of people, because the tax-free allowances in the United States are so high,
Mhm.
a lot of my clients are surprised that taxes apply in Germany.
Okay. And when it comes to like some of the biggest mistakes that people make before they call an attorney, we kind of talked about one where it's like, well, they just don't do any planning. And then by the time they call you, it's in probate, it's already too late. But aside from that, like, what are some of the other biggest mistakes you see people make before they call an attorney like yourself?
Yeah, as I said, if you can also inherit debt in
Mhm.
Germany. So a big mistake is not to do anything because German law says if you do not renounce within a certain deadline, which typically, if you live abroad, is 6 months, if
Mhm.
you do not renounce the inheritance, it's being deemed that you accepted it.
Oh, wow.
So after 6 months, you're the heir. And if the estate is over in debt, then good luck. So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's a huge mistake, I can imagine. Then I'm,
Uh-huh.
I'm sure a lot of people have gotten caught in that and just didn't realize what was going on. Now, with the rise of AI, I'm sure a lot of people are just going on ChatGPT or Gemini or choose your AI platform, be like, hey, how do I do this? Can I try and save the amount? Can I just draft up these documents myself? But what are some of the I guess the negative repercussions of someone just relying on AI to try and navigate this without an attorney?
Well, AI is great, and I can only encourage people to also double check and do their own due diligence and look it up. However, legal terms and legal German is so unique and so it really depends on the entire circumstance and the entire situation. And that's probably the mistake we all still do. And not only in cases like what we're talking about right now in German inheritance cases, but when we use AI, we ask AI one question without telling ChatGPT or Claude the entire background story because we just don't want to waste that time, you know.
Yeah.
And the problem is, in my opinion, that AI is not going to tell you, I don't know. AI is just going to tell you, answer. And then people believe it. And sometimes it's just unfortunately not that easy, especially when it comes to legal terms. And I still see it every day when ChatGPT translates a legal document. It's just not 100% correct.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about the mistakes then. So, on the flip side of that, what are a few smart steps people can start taking when dealing with this entire part? I know one is basically like talk to an attorney ahead of time before it's too late, but
Yeah.
like what are some of the other kind of smart first steps they can take?
So I think what's definitely the best all of us can do is to think about our own estate plan, especially if you have assets in more than one country. If you have assets in Germany and the United States, make sure to consult with experts that know both countries. Because as I said, especially from a tax perspective, there can be huge, if you don't do anything or if you only work with a US attorney, which I see all the time as well, which the estate plan might be perfect in the United States, but no one thought about the assets in Germany. So please, please, please look at the list of assets that you have. And if you don't have one yet, draft one up. And then if there's any assets in a different country, make sure to include those in your estate plan. Talk to your estate attorney about it. And hopefully the US estate attorney is going to be honest enough if he doesn't know anything about the foreign country, because you can do and help your heirs a lot by, setting the estate plan up correctly.
Okay. And going cross border, does that make the entire process exponentially more complex? Or is it just like, okay, we have the US side, we have the German side, just set it for both and we're good to go?
Yeah, if it's set up perfectly, it's actually not bad at all because the German side is going to do the German side. The US side is going to, if you have to go through probate in the US, you do that. Where it gets super complex is if for example, you have two wills and they are contradicting, or if the German court has to wait for an American judge's decision, or vice versa, or a German court has to interpretate a US trust, which Germany doesn't even know what a trust is. So that's where it gets complicated.
Okay. Now, what about sale of property from abroad? How does that does it throw a wrench into things? I guess, like, how do you kind of approach that?
It's not difficult at all. It's just different. And because, my clients don't know what it looks like in Germany, it's that they're just curious and they're also a little shy and cautious because they don't know how it works. And it starts already with, in Germany, there's no such platform like Zillow. So you can't look up the value of the estate. There's no data protection is just so high in Germany that it's not public how much your house is worth. So that being said, it's already the first threshold or the first big question is how much can I actually ask for it? So the house has to get appraised. The next very big difference is that funds are not being transferred once you find a buyer, are not transferred into a trust account or an escrow account. There's no title company. So you just have to trust and hope that the buyer is going to pay you the money, And it's so funny because I grew up in Germany, and for me that was normal until I moved here, and I was like, it's so smart to have a trust account actually
Yeah.
involved,
Yeah. Mhm.
So there's pros and cons. It's just very different.
Okay.
And that's where I think it's also smart to have a an expert helping, because I can let you know, hey, this is the normal procedure. There is no trust account,
Yeah. Yeah, because I can imagine being someone from the US, it's like there's no trust account. Like, what if they screw you over? It's like I don't know if I feel
Exactly.
comfortable
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good to know. Now, Nicola, let's say that someone is looking for help from a lawyer, from an attorney to help them put together their estate plan or figure out the sale of property from abroad, like whatever these scenarios that we've talked about. But let's say they don't know who to choose. What is the most important piece of advice you can give to this person as they're trying to do their search to find that attorney, that lawyer who has the knowledge, has the experience, and can help them navigate this potentially complex process?
Um, I mean, first of all, look at the assets. Where are most of your assets located?
Hmm.
And then also, who do you want to inherit from you? And where are your beneficiaries currently located? And I understand that, no one knows when we're going to die. No one knows where the beneficiaries are going to live in whenever I die. And I don't know if hopefully my assets are going to grow in the meantime. However, if there is any, like if there are assets or beneficiaries involved in Germany, please involve a German attorney in your estate plan, a German attorney, and then a US attorney in the state that you live in.
Hmm.
Because obviously, if I live in Colorado, so I need someone who's an expert in Colorado estate planning, and that Colorado estate lawyer would need to reach out to me as well, or any other German attorney, which I don't know if there is another German attorney in Colorado, but and then we would work together. When it comes to inheriting from Germany or also estate planning, of course, you can also work with a German lawyer in Germany as well.
Hmm.
So I'm a German attorney. It doesn't matter if you work with me or someone in Germany. The advantage, if you want to engage my services, is that I'm in your time zone and
Hmm.
I also speak English.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just important to have. And if you have assets in France, you need a French attorney.
Okay. Now, when it comes to this concept of choosing the right attorney for you, let's say that you have a situation where you have an attorney that you connect with, you kind of jive with, but maybe they're not the best. They're good, but they're not the best. And then there's another attorney that is the best ability wise, but maybe you just don't quite connect with them so well. Like, which should you prioritize? And I know in a perfect situation you have both, but if you had
Yeah.
to kind of prioritize one or the other, like likability, connection versus high ability and their skill set, which would you lean more towards being more important for the average person to consider?
I mean, it's hard to say because ideally both, all of the explained or all of the said applies. But in the end, you don't want to go out for dinner with your attorney. You don't want your attorney to be your best friend. What you want is you want to win the case and you want to get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're on a personal level not connecting, and I mean, I like being, I try to also, I don't know how to put it, but in the end, I work for my clients. I want the best for my clients. So I'm not going to sit there and chit chat because I also don't want it to get too expensive for them because I bill at an hourly rate. Um, so that's why I was like, yes, it's ideal if the connection is great, but in the end, I want, and if I hire a CPA, I want the CPA to do a perfect job. And I don't want him or her to be my best friend and listen to my personal stories, what I did last weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Now, how do you set the right expectations for your clients so that they feel informed, they know what to expect, and they feel support throughout the process? Because I imagine when it comes to this, expectations are a huge component of are they going to be happy? Do they kind of know what they're in for? So, how do you approach setting those proper expectations for your clients?
Yes, so I offer, and every client is different. So there's some clients who want to know exactly like every sentence that I send out, they want to double check and read, and I'm totally fine with it. Others just want me to get it done. And they don't want to be disturbed in the meantime.
Mhm.
I talk with it at the very beginning with my clients. I do have on my website, you can schedule phone calls. It's 30-minute existing client calls, and you can schedule as many as you want. And if you want to schedule one twice a week, I'm totally fine, and we'll talk about it. I think it is easier to just quickly jump in a phone call or video, those are video calls actually, and discuss next steps and where we're at rather than emailing back and forth. But obviously, whatever I sent out, I also send to my clients. I have a client portal where you can see exactly what I build out, like how many hours did I work on your case. And I just like to be transparent and also discuss upfront with my clients how much do you want to be involved.
Okay, good to know. Now, Nicola, I'm sure that throughout your experience, you've had some maybe challenging cases or at least memorable cases that you've worked on. Is there maybe one story that comes to mind that you can share of just one of those challenging or memorable cases and how you're able to get them a successful outcome in the end?
Yeah, I have one that is a very unique situation. So the lady who passed away in Germany, she one of the heirs is her husband, and her husband is in the United States.
Mhm.
Now, when she drafted her last will, 3 years before she died, she wrote, I want my husband to be my heir, but I want my ex-husband to be my executor. So I know. So now we're facing the situation where the ex-husband is, trying to or is in charge of distributing and selling all the stuff that is part of the estate. And of course, my client is not happy with the ex-husband's work.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a very unique situation. I was like, why would you appoint your ex-husband as the executor?
Man, that is very unique. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Nicola, when it comes to the future of where state law is going, like, is there anything that people should kind of pay attention to, like any changes that's on the horizon, or anything that could like really material change, or is it kind of like the same kind of year over year?
So I don't see any changes when it comes to the tax situation. I wish there were some changes coming up.
Mhm.
I think generally speaking, that it will get German courts will get more experienced with cross-border estates and like having to deal with the trust, for example.
Mhm.
In the last few years, you've seen more and more cases being international. So I feel like, and then also, you won't believe it, but there's still a lot of German judges who do not speak a single word of English. So
Mhm.
I think that will definitely change. AI will probably help as well. So it will hopefully get a lot easier because it's going to get more common. But from a legal point of view, any changes, I at least I don't know any major developments.
Okay. And when it comes to your practice, I mean, what is your vision for your practice?
So I hired my first employee last year and I added another one this year. So that's super exciting. I do want to grow. I know the people need help. It is a very unique and niche market.
Mhm.
So I hope I'm gonna grow and hire more people soon. And yeah, and then I'll go from there.
Okay, excellent. Now, Nicola, I know that with your niche kind of specialty, I'm sure that there are other things. There's a lot that goes into it. Was there anything that we haven't talked about so far that we really should have talked about?
The only thing that I would, and we talked about it a little bit, I just would like to point out one more time. If anyone does need a German attorney, I can advise clients all over the world or all over the United States. So you do not have to live in Colorado if you want to engage my services. Most of my clients are all over. Everything is online and remote. That's just something that I would like to emphasize one more time. And other than that, I mean, I can only recommend everyone to look at their estate plan and also to put a reminder like every year or every other year in your calendar. We have reminders for everything in our calendar. So just add that one saying, look at your estate plan. Is it still in line with what you want? Because I experienced a lot of cases where the last will is like from 1976, and I'm pretty sure your situation has changed a little bit in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Well, Nicola, I do have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at www.germaninheritance.law.us.
Perfect.
Now,
yes, thank you.
Yep. Now, last question is, what does peace of mind mean to you?
Peace of mind to me means to be happy not only in what you do for work, but also personal. And I think, especially nowadays where we have our computer with us or our phone all the time, we look at email, like we check our emails all the time. It's very important to put the phone away, be actually outside in the nature with your loved ones, and breathe in and be peace of mind. Just enjoy being there in that moment.
Awesome. Well said. Well, there you have it. Nicola sharing her expertise. So, Nicola, where can people contact you and your practice?
Yeah, you can contact me through my website, germaninheritance.law.us. I also offer a 20-minute free consultation on my website. You can easily go on their website and book it. And then also, if you want to email me, it's nicola@germaninheritance.law.us.
Awesome. Well, Nicola, this is great. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for sharing all of your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Verdict Signal podcast. Any questions? Please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.